This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of Doc and Jock. I am the Doc, John McEnroe, joining me, as always, my cousin Adam, the Jock Strozinski. And finally, we get to have a celebratory podcast, a talk about something great that happened in Detroit sports. I think an entire city, an entire state willed something to happen. And hey, here at Doc and Jock, we can boastfully and proudly say the Pistons finally earned the number 1 overall draft pick. We are the best at sucking. Finally, give us our medal, give us our trophy for sucking in 2020. And now as a result of a bad 2020-2021 season, the Detroit Pistons have earned the right to draft Cade Cunningham. Even they can't fuck that up. So it's great. Everybody in Detroit celebrated. I can't wait to hear how Adam took that all in, because I think he was just like everybody else, where he was waiting and seeing once it got down to number 14, and then they started flipping it, and everybody was having that built-up anticipation. And, man, was it a release, I think, from an entire sports community for the Pistons to earn that number 1 pick. Man, it felt good.
Yeah, so it was, as it was unfolding, I had ESPN, obviously, and I was watching it, and it was like the longest pre-show ever, too, by the way. It was like a 20-minute, like, let's get you lubed up, and then we'll give you the results here. And as they started flipping cards at 14, I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't really get invested until we got to about 8. When we got to about 8, I was like, all right, cool. I think the Pistons can't do any worse than what, 6th? I think that's the worst they could do. So then I'm watching everything with bated breath. And it goes to 6. And the Pistons, I was expecting them to get 6. Let's be honest here. We've all done this. We've all seen this, how this merry-go-round goes round. And you basically know if you're a Detroit team, you generally get piped here. So they weren't 6. Then they weren't 5. And now I was like, all right, sweet, we're in the top 4. And like, I'm at Alyssa's house and I'm yelling at Alyssa. I'm like, we're in the top 4. Let's go. Let's do this. And then they flipped over 4. Well, they go to a commercial break. Then they flip over 4. And I was like, all right, sweet, top 3. And she's like, all right, calm down. And I was like, no, you got to get excited here. We're about to win something without even winning something. Let's go. And then it goes to 2. And then I was like, oh, my God, there's a great shot. We're going to win this whole damn thing. And they flipped over 2. And I screamed so loud. I think the whole state of Michigan, all the Detroit Pistons fans screamed and were dancing. And I was so excited that they got the first overall pick. I was pumped. I was yelling. I was like, let's go. Get some. Let's do it. And I looked at her and I was like, do you realize this is the most excited I've ever been for something in sports without an actual game being won? And she just started laughing. And I think as Piston fans, you got to be excited, right? This doesn't happen all the time. The last time the Pistons were drafting this high, they ended up taking Darko. You know, so like you're just hoping that they don't screw it up or something crazy happens. And you were lucky enough to get in on the presser right after and ask a couple really good questions. And it had me thinking, this has to be the guy, right? If it's going to be Cade Cunningham, he has to be the difference maker. He has to be the guy who is going to help elevate this franchise. He basically has to be, and I was just in Milwaukee over the weekend. He has to be basically your Giannis. He has to be the Greek freak for what is Milwaukee. He's got to be that for the Pistons. He's got to be the guy that other people want to come here to play with. And I hope he is. Like, I really hope he is. If it's Cade Cunningham, that's great. And this is the thing. We don't know who it's going to be yet. We don't know if all signs point to it being Cade Cunningham. But in my estimation, when you're drafting this high, this doesn't happen ever. This guy has to be your difference maker. He has to be the dude who's going to help revolutionize this franchise. And look, last year, Troy Weaver did a lot of really nice things, got a lot of really nice pieces. Sadiq Bey is a guy who we were all kind of like, what? Okay, cool. Like, all right, well, let's see what happens here. You know, you have a lot of really good pieces on this roster. This has to be the guy who really transforms this roster and makes it a contender. And whether it's Cade Cunningham, whether it's Jalen Suggs, whether it's Jalen Green, whether it's anybody else, whoever is at this pick has to be the guy to basically change the way this franchise is progressing and the way this franchise is going.
Yeah, look, I didn't put on no priest costume. I didn't pray, but what I did was, my small piece of it was, once an athletic beat writer was putting out there, stop it all of you with the reverse psychology, because it worked. All Detroit fans were tweeting at James Edwards, number 6, we want number 6. And he's silly, really silly, doesn't understand social media, he posts, you guys can stop with the reverse psychology. And then I took to Twitter and said, hey, and I posted a big fat number 6 and had it twirling around in the clouds. And he replies, like, you can send that all you want, but that would be great for me. I wouldn't even care, because I have so much content to fill. I can put so many mock drafts out, and I can put so much content that I gotta fill. Well, that's cute, James, but by and large, it worked. Reverse psychology does work, and I think all of Metro Detroit tried to do anything. I think everybody that had holes in their underwear, their favorite underwear, they wore it. Anything that they could do to will something to happen. And it was nice to see, finally, something, a reward, too, because the Pistons only won 20 games. They were awful, and yeah, we saw development, but by and large, on the win column, in the win-loss department, they struggled mightily, and they did what everybody wanted them to do, which was tank. They didn't play their best lineups at times, and yeah, they were competitive. Yeah, maybe they didn't bottom out and officially tank in the way in which we are known to see it, but it was tanking by definition, and yes, thankfully, it was rewarded. And in this situation, finally, and I think here at DocNJock, we might just go and follow suit like the television stations and call him Cade Cunningham. I think that was a good nickname that we can give him here at DocNJock. But I'm excited for the potential of seeing a superstar, somebody that could grow into a really solid player that can really elevate your program. And just based on the excitement of Dwayne Casey, of the Pistons management, did you see the video of Jalen Rose excitedly watching the playoffs and celebrating? Why? What does it mean? It really means, and I'll get your sense of it, does adding Cade Cunningham expedite the rebuild for the Pistons?
Well, I think it has to, right? I think it does. I mean, this is a 6'8" point guard who can shoot the ball. He can dribble the ball. He can create plays. I mean, you kind of seen what he did during the NCAA tournament, and he looked good. Like, he looked really good. This is probably the most pro-ready prospect in this draft class. On top of that, he's drawing comparisons to being one of the best prospects to come out of college since, what did I hear earlier today? I think it might have been, definitely wasn't LeBron, but it was, I don't know, in the last 10, 15 years, he's like the most pro-ready prospect that's hit the draft. So, I mean, that's pretty high praise.
We'll take it all day.
Know? I mean, yeah, you have to. You'd be silly not to. You know, I think the more interesting thing about all of this is you don't, as an organization, you don't get something like this that just kind of falls in your lap. You don't have the fortuitous bounce to get this. And for the Pistons to execute the tank perfectly, like that's what they did. They went out and they executed the tank perfectly. Troy Weaver essentially laid everything out this season. You knew this season wasn't about winning for this team. This season was about growth and development for some of the young guys. But he put together a roster that was good enough to be competitive at times. You think you might have a piece with Jeremy Grant. You went out and you drafted a lot of young players who seen a lot of time this year, and they lost games. And they got better down the stretch. And as they got better down the stretch, they started to win a couple of games. So much so that as the season started to wind down, you had to basically put some of those guys on the shelf because you were worried about them winning games. And he executed the tank perfectly. You have a general manager here who it just bodes so well for him that they were able to position themselves to get the number one pick, but then to actually get the number one pick. And I think that's a huge deal. And I don't think it's getting talked about enough. I know there's a lot of excitement about who they could possibly draft with number one, but it shows you that you have a real general manager who knows what the hell he's doing. Because for how long have we talked about all the general managers here? I mean, forever and a day, it's basically been Steve Yzerman, and it's been Steve Yzerman because everybody else was so poor. At this moment in time, you've got GMs that look like they know exactly what they're doing. Look, Steve Yzerman might have tumbled down your rankings list a little bit because of keeping certain people around, as well as this process isn't moving as quickly. But what you have now is the Pistons have catapulted to probably the forefront of every Big Four organization here in the city of Detroit. And I think Troy Weaver, at the head of that, I think he has helped elevate this group, and this group looks almost like it's ready to win. Now, obviously, we got to go through the whole process, and you got to get the first. You have to select whoever you're going to select with the number 1 overall pick. We all believe it's going to be Cunningham, but this team looks like it's in a position where they can make a lot of noise next year, and they look like they are the organization that will possibly win a championship first. I mean, do you not agree with that? Does that not seem like that's kind of the case where the Troy Weaver and the Detroit Pistons have basically slingshotted their way in front of everybody else?
Yeah, I think the expectation would be maybe somewhere between a 6 and 8 seed and maybe qualify for the playing game or maybe have an opportunity really to win at least, 30 to 40 games, this upcoming season. But I have to ask you, because, yes, most likely, yeah, I know that people have looked and have said that, Troy Weaver likes centers, he might like Mobley, but I don't believe he's going to go off the board because Cade Cunningham is so pro-ready, and he fits right in perfectly with everything that you're trying to do. He's the consensus number 1. I mean, it's pretty much straightforward when it gets reported 5 seconds after the Pistons card gets turned over. Cunningham is working out with one team the entire process, and that's the Detroit Pistons. So he knows, everyone knows, but the scenario in which I have to present it because it's talked about and people will entertain it because the GM has to also entertain it. If a team like Dallas says, look, Luka's not happy, he's ready, he's telling us that, look, he wants out, he's not happy anymore with the way in which the organization has gone, and he feels like he needs to be part of something different. We'll hand you Luka, we'll hand you our first round pick this year, next year, the year after. If you get, let's say, 2 to 3 first rounders and a proven player, not like Zion, not like Ben Simmons, I'm talking about somebody where on film you've seen him hit shots, on film you've seen him produce at a high level. If an offer is so good, would you consider moving away and not be willing to take Cade Cunningham for the ability to draft multiple first rounders in the coming years, where maybe you get the opportunity at 3 potential superstars depending on the team that takes it? Because Cade Cunningham's nice, but is he worth a proven player and 2 to 3 additional first rounders? Because remember, the first time in 50 years the Pistons have had pick number 1, I know they're going to covet it, but it has staying power, it has weight. And if a team comes up and is like, we're going to give you a couple firsts, couple seconds, couple proven players, and we're going to set you up to win sooner rather than later with some proven guys, I mean, I would take a look at it. Would I do it? Probably not, because I want to see Cade develop here in Detroit. I want to finally take you guys out and have some beers at LCA and finally watch something worthwhile where you feel good spending your money instead of trying to find all the free tickets that you can. So I wouldn't do it, but I would definitely listen. And it's not as far-fetched as many would believe. And I'm seeing online a lot of people blowing up the beat writers saying, let's just do it.
Yeah, so it would depend on what that package entailed, right? Of course, you have to listen to everything, and you got to look at what's being offered to you. I mean, look, Luka is pretty great, right? So, like, if he's part of a package that you might be able to get, I think you have to really consider that. I will tell you this much. It has been fun, and it has been exciting. Like, this year, they sucked. They were so bad. They were the second worst team in the league. All right? But there was something exciting about this year. There was something exciting about watching the guys develop and watching them grow. And I think that excitement helps revitalize a fan base that's pretty much lied dormant for years now and has been pretty disgusted with the product that they've had on the floor. So I think there's something to it where you get a number 1 draft pick you put him on this team and you watch how this team gels and you watch how this team gets better. I think there's something that helps to reinvigorate a fan base that has basically been pushed to the wayside and has just kind of been lying there, waiting for something to basically spice it back up. But I think if you're Troy Weaver and you get some kind of crazy offer where you're going to get multiple first-round picks, you're going to get what I would deem a star player. I think Luka Doncic is a star player in this league. If you're going to get somebody like that, you're going to get something like that. I think you definitely have to listen to it and you have to consider it. You also have to look at what it is that you're trying to do and what it is that you're trying to build. And I don't know if he comes in, he's the piece that's needed. But I would tell you that I would definitely consider it. And I think you'd be crazy to not consider it. And I think you have to consider something like that or something along those lines. That being said, I think I might be in the same boat as you, where I don't necessarily jump on that. I don't take that offer. I continue to kind of do what I'm doing. I have a blueprint, I have a game plan, and there's really no quick way to success in Detroit. There just isn't.
Yeah, you said that again.
It's one of those things where we talk about this all the time. The only way to really, for the Pistons or for any team in Detroit to really win is to be able to draft that superstar or draft that guy who becomes a superstar. Because superstars don't want to come here and play. They just don't. So you have to be able to go out, find that guy, nurture that guy, build him up, get him to that point. You need, when I use the term like Giannis, I'm being 100% for real. Giannis you should see the way Milwaukee is. For Game 7, everybody and their grandmother, they basically rolled out of bed in their Giannis PJs and were walking up and down the streets of Milwaukee. He is a guy who has basically taken over a city. He is essentially the king of Milwaukee. And he is a guy who will play there. And he is a guy who can get other people to want to come and play with him. And it's freaking Milwaukee that we're talking about. You need that here in Detroit. You need your Giannis. You need your superstar. And if that guy's Cade Cunningham, then I think you have to stick with the game plan. You have to draft him number 1, and you have to build with him because you get him on the cheap for a couple of years. And it allows you to put better talent around him because they want to come here. And then when he gets to sign that big contract, you can sign him to that max contract. And you already have guys that are kind of here, and you get other guys who want to come in and play with him. You have the ability to do that. And I think what you're seeing with this NBA Finals, you're seeing a little bit of a changing of the guard. You know, you don't have the names that you normally have in the NBA Finals. And whether that's due to just attrition, whether that's due to them just having to play so many games in such a shortened time period because of the COVID schedule last year and the COVID schedule this year, whatever it is, you're seeing a bit of the changing of the guard where you've got a team like the Suns who were garbage 3 years ago. All right, and there are young players making big moves and winning basketball games for them. You had a team like the 76ers who were the epitome of what tanking is, and they were able to piece things together, and they made a nice little run until they ran into Milwaukee, who again another team that isn't one of your standard teams, isn't one of the teams that you think of being NBA championship caliber. This is a team that is essentially made up of one superstar, and then he's got some pieces around him. I mean, you got Brooks Lopez out there. Like, I was cracking up watching how everybody was talking about Brooks Lopez. I seen a girl wearing a Brooks Lopez jersey, and I was like, what the hell are you wearing a Brooks Lopez jersey for? And I had to explain who the hell Brooks Lopez was to my girlfriend. So, like, you're seeing a bit of a change here in the league. Why can't the Pistons be out in front of that? It makes total sense for me to draft this guy, build your team, keep doing what you're doing, and just be this team who is dominant for the next 3 or 4 or 5, 6 years going forward, you know? It just makes sense to me.
And hopefully, if he has a long career and he retires, hopefully Cade Cunningham as a number 1 pick pans out and can stay loyal to the organization, unlike Calvin Johnson, who continues.
That's a great segue.
Yeah, you hope that his ending to his career is like Ben Wallace, where you get to kind of come back to the organization, and even though you may leave, you get to come back and sit there and be the representative at the draft, where potentially Calvin Johnson. Now, here's the thing. all along the way, I think you and I have been steadfast in our belief that, look, the Lions need to pay this man to keep him quiet so that he stops going around and making headlines with every interview that he goes on. But now, when you look at it in totality, if you just look at it from the perspective of the Lions, you didn't mistreat the man. You gave him contract when he negotiated it that made him one of the highest paid wide receivers of all time. You set him and his family up for generations. Yes, when the time came and it ended, you didn't really let him go and sign elsewhere and release him. But that's what Bob Quinn chose to do. And it wasn't totally out of character to ask for the money back because it helped the salary cap. You used that $1 million or so to sign players to the current roster. So yes, it's kind of like one of those deals where if I give you $100 million and I take one of it back, are you really mad? Are you really that upset and disrespected? I know that you see Matthew Stafford get the royal treatment, but he's a quarterback. Quarterbacks are treated like kings, and he drew 2 first-rounders and another draft pick and a starting quarterback. You were at the end of your career, and you were spouting off going, I think I'm hurt. Look at my fingers. Look at me. So it is now to the point where it's sour grapes. And if I'm the Lions and he goes out there, and you got to remember, yeah, he didn't set out to bash the Lions. He's answering questions. But when a network asks you, hey, you're in the Hall of Fame, you're part of the family now, you don't just spout off and go, no, I'm not part of the family. I'm still not part of the family. You say things along the lines that are more politically correct and more easy. You say, you know what, I've had a chance. I've had great conversations with Sheila, Rod, the new team. Looks like a new, fresh energy. I think we're going to get it worked out, and I look forward to getting back in the fold. I've been talking to the players. That's what you say. You don't say, no, I'm not part of the family. And so now with this final bashing, now I love it personally because you type in Calvin Johnson, people want to read it, and then people want to hate on him too, to be like, look, we're tired of this. Stop writing about it. But they keep reading it, so that's really, really good for us. But bottom line, if I'm the Lions, I say screw it. Take your money and shove it up your ass. I'm not giving it to you. Go to the Hall of Fame, make your speeches. We gave you enough money. You've done enough. At some point, you got to hold your dignity up high and say, look, we gave you so much money. You know what? Too bad. This is the result of you spouting off to this degree. And look, it's not as malicious, but it's just disrespectful. It's rude. To this point in time, you keep coming out and saying, oh, I talked to the players. Well, what does that mean? Are you that upset that you're not going to recoup $1.5 or $2 million of your signing bonus when you made well over $80 million in your career, and you're now in a business that if you're at least a nitwit, you can make $300,000 a month? I mean, come on, let it go, man. Be a little bit more cordial. And if someone's trying to get $2 million out of me, you're going to have to do some ass licking. And I'm going to need you to kind of be a little bit nicer in public and start saying the magic words. I love Sheila. Sheila's fun. Sheila's out there. I can't wait to talk to Sheila. Sheila should be, every third word should be something nice about Sheila. She's going to cut you a check for $2 million. Nobody likes to write checks for $2 million. I don't like to write checks for $20. So you got to start ass licking a little bit, bro. Stop with the public tour and the public, the public bashing of the Lions. It's played out. And you're not desolate. You're not homeless. Just on a Monday, you were golfing at an outing. You're in a business that's going to print you money. Stop with the bashing and get with the politics if you want your money back.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, right? At what point is enough, right? You were on a team that at the time that you were looking to retire, you were looking to move on. They thought they could win. Now, we look back in hindsight, and obviously that team was way far away from winning. And the way Bob Quinn, if you're going to be mad at anybody, be mad at Bob Quinn. He was the one who had the say in all this. It wasn't this present regime. It wasn't this present team. Yeah, if Martha wanted something done, Martha could have had something done. Okay? So if you want to be mad at Martha, go ahead, be mad at Martha. But she gave all the power and all the control to Bob Quinn. This was Bob Quinn's first big move as general manager. How are you going to come out and neuter your GM with his first big move, which includes their biggest all-time player in Calvin Johnson, at least at that time, right? Granted, he's not Barry Sanders, but whatever. He's one of those guys who goes on the Mount Rushmore of Detroit Lions. So how are you going to have your current GM, how are you going to basically neuter him when he's in a power struggle with one of your all-time players. You just don't do that. This is your brand new GM. Now, if Bob Quinn had been there for 5 years and things were kind of up and down and you want to side with the player, fine, go ahead, do that. That's fine. You can do that, all right? And you're bitching about $1 million. You're bitching about, what, 1.5? Is that what it is, 1.5?
Yeah, in the neighborhood of north of $1 million.
Okay.
They say, but it's maybe more than one. Let's just say 1.5.
Oh, okay, cool. 1.5, maybe $2 million. Who the hell cares? You made a boatload of money. You were the one who negotiated these contracts. You were the one who signed on the dotted line. You didn't have to sign with the Lions. When it came time for you to restructure your deal, you could have said, no, I'm just going to play the season out and we're going to hit free agency. I want to hit free agency. And you probably could have maxed out more money if you really wanted to.
Preach, brother.
When Matt Stafford went to the Detroit Lions, went up, talked to Sheila, talked to whomever, it was like, I want out. This team was at a completely different situation than they were with Calvin Johnson. They were nowhere close to winning, and the writing was on the wall. You had a GM coming in who, his first big move was, hey, you get to do this without a franchise quarterback. You have to start from scratch. And he said, cool, I embrace that. We'll move him, and we're going to get something for him. And you know what? We're going to use it, and we're going to make this team even better. It was totally different situations at the time. And I understand if Calvin's bitter because he doesn't get to go and play for a championship, doesn't get to go play for a Super Bowl. I get it. I understand. As an athlete, and especially as an athlete that's that high caliber, all you want to do is win, and you play the game to basically win a Super Bowl. Sorry, man. Sorry about your luck. Sorry you got drafted to the Lions. Sorry that you re-signed here 3 times. Sorry that they gave you a boatload of money. And look, me and B did a Lions rewatch. I think we got to 2014, and I'll be honest with you, there were games where Calvin totally disappeared. And whether it was Calvin dealing with injuries, or whether it was Calvin just not having good games, or whether it was his quarterback at the time with Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, I think over the course of his career, has gotten much, much better than initially when he started playing with Calvin Johnson. All that being the case, it's what it was. It's what it is. That's the history of it all. You got paid for all of that. You did. And like you said, at the time, he was made the highest paid wide receiver in the league. I don't know what else you want. I don't know what else this organization could do for you. I understand that you wanted to be traded, but Bob Quinn wasn't going to trade you. He just wasn't. He thought he could win with you. You wanted to leave. You opted to retire. That's on you. I don't know. I don't know what else there is to say about it. On top of that, I think if they were to trade him, because I'm almost positive we did like 3 shows on this. If they were to trade him, they were up against that salary cap so severely. That's why they took that extra, $1.5 million back. Because they needed the money because they had to sign guys, and they didn't have anything because the salary cap was so screwed up. It was the one thing Bob Quinn did really, really well, was he got that salary cap in line and he got it straightened out.
Exactly.
When Calvin retired, that salary cap was outrageous. And if they would have traded him, the dead salary cap that would have counted against them would have basically bankrupted that team. They wouldn't have been able to do anything. So they had to keep him. They didn't have a choice in the matter.
And maybe you realize that he's probably thinking that the money's coming because he's going to the Hall of Fame, so you kind of feel like you can say and do whatever. But at some point, you're going to upset the people that you're negotiating with. And, bro, if you want to be like that, just take the money first. Get the check in your pocket and get it in your bank, and then feel free to say whatever you want. But who knows how this is going to play out, because if I'm the Lions, I just cut ties with this and just say, you know what, you've already said 10 things. You could say 10 more things. We're moving forward. Congratulations on your Hall of Fame, but you know what? This is just beyond the point of repair at this point. But I think based on what Dave Burkett has reported from the Free Press, he said that it's just a matter of time. They're figuring out how to do it, if they want to make 5 payments of $200K, or if they want to do it in one lump sum, or a no-show job, or some title. We'll figure it out, but in my opinion, this has to be the last time that he goes out there and makes national news, where SI, where TMZ, CBS Sports, Bleacher Report all pick it up and report on the fact that Kelvin is spouting off against the Detroit Lions before he collects any dollars. Let's go, man. Let's be a little professional. Get the cash, secure the bag, kiss up a little bit to the people that are going to give it to you, and then you can speak freely and speak your mind. So that's just my opinion on it. We'll see how it plays out. But it was just interesting that Calvin every offseason makes his rounds, and now for the third offseason of covering the Detroit Lions, I've written multiple things about Calvin Johnson and the relationship with the Detroit Lions. Now, before we get out of here, I do want to bring up just one thing now, because the Major League Baseball trade deadline, I believe, is July 31st, one deadline, and of the teams that we've talked about having good general managers, I think you and I can agree that Al Avila probably ranks fourth because of the fact there's too many misses, there's too many missed opportunities. I mean, look, every time Nick Castellanos steps to the plate, it's a constant wart on the fact that you cared about his defense when he's destroying the baseball. Now, would he have destroyed the baseball here in Detroit? Probably not. But bottom line, he's playing awesome somewhere else, and you're still looking for consistent hitters across the board. But, you got to give A.J. Hinch credit. He's got this team playing well in the month of June, and Jonathan Scope is doing amazing. With that said, with where the Tigers are at, they're still kind of in that level one of their rebuild. So I know the trust level is low, and we'll dig deeper into this in the coming episodes because we got about 6 weeks to look at it. But in my opinion, for the Detroit Tigers to move forward, you got to trade Jonathan Scope. You got to trade Michael Fulmer. You got to trade Jake Rogers. You got to say, if anybody has a monicum of success, maybe even a Jamer Candelario, if somebody's out there willing to give you prospects and give you 2 for 1 on each of those players, you have to take a look at it because it's a team that's still not anywhere near the postseason. You have young arms that are solid, but bottom line, cuz you don't have any positional players that are consistent. You got players that are playing out of position. You don't have widely developed standard infielders that are players that are going to contribute year in, year out, and that are considered great players. You've done the good thing, and I understand the philosophy. You get the arms first, but they're coming. I'm excited. Riley Green, Spencer Torkelson, combined with Casey Mize, Matt Manning. You're starting to see now 4, 5, 6 players that are going to be here, and A.J. Hinch is the real deal. But you have to sell. Don't make the same mistakes that you've made in the past. Sell. Be in that mindset. And I think the biggest 2 chips potentially are Michael Fulmer, Jonathan Scope. Maybe you look at some pitchers that are starters on your roster and maybe a Spencer Turnbull. You look at it and you say, well, who else would you be willing to deal? If an offer is made, you got to do it. You have to find players that are going to be positionally well and hit better. And we'll talk more about it too, in that I don't know if you've paid attention, but these checks of these pitchers and them kind of putting their hands in their pants and trying to figure out if there's any sicky stuff, it is crazy where baseball has gone. I want to dive into it more, but are you with me? Sell. They have to be in that mindset. Sell.
So here's the thing too. This team's just finally getting fun to watch or to listen to. I listened to Wednesday's game when they were taking on the Cardinals, and it was enjoyable to listen to. But I think it's a prime example of why you have to sell now. Michael Fulmer specifically is a guy who, look, you were ahead of the curve on it. You said that they should have sold on him 3-4 years ago, and next thing you know, he's hurt, he's banged up quite a bit. So you were ahead of the curve, you were on it. Michael Fulmer is finally back. Michael Fulmer looks like he's a good closer. Looks like he's a really good closer. He's got multiple pitches. He's got some good stuff. And I think Wednesday's game is a prime example of what Michael Fulmer has going on in his arsenal.
Yeah.
This is a guy who you can slot in and he will just punch guys out, and he looks comfortable. He looks confident. He's finally healthy.
How big a mistake? How big a mistake Matthew Boyd last year. I mean, that was the crescendo of his talent. You said it. I said it. The whole Major League Baseball community said it. Like, hey, this guy's a hot starter, and he just ends up giving up bomb after bomb when he cools off. And it happened. You had potentially teams like the Yankees calling, and you're like, yeah, we want your first and second best prospect and maybe a draft pick. And you're like, the Yankees are sitting there going, is Al Avila serious here? He's trying, this is like, we're talking about Matthew Boyd here. We're not giving you our top 2 prospects, and we're not giving you one of our best players. Like, stop it. And you're like, okay, it's fine to ask high, but you gotta kind of understand, make the deal with a player that you can reasonably get and be fair about it. Cause look, now he's regressed again, and now he's starting to break down. and you probably miss the ceiling of what you can get for it. But the Tigers, absolutely, they're a fun watch. They're playing good baseball. AJ Hinch is a straight shooter, answers your questions directly and honestly, and I like sitting in on those Zoom meetings as well. And it's a great opportunity to check in with your baseball team. And now, cuz officially, we should give a round of applause. Michigan is now finally open in terms of the fact that the coronavirus has dipped to the level where you can be normal, you can be around people. It's been a long year and a half, and now with the vaccine and everybody kind of getting back to normal, we can celebrate, hey, we can go to the ballpark, do our thing, do whatever you want, wear a mask, not wear a mask. I'm still wearing it personally, in crowds and things like that, but I think the freedom of knowing that you're gonna see some people without it, some people not. And I think that now, as we move forward, we can kind of let our guard down, at least for the summer, and really see how this progresses. And it's gonna be good to see for sports, for crowds, for the community in Detroit, for you in Milwaukee kissing your girlfriend and posting it on social media. Adam and Alyssa kissing in a tree, having a lot of fun in Milwaukee. I enjoyed it, man. Keep posting it.
Look at you.
Keep posting it, baby. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole thing, man. I was like, oh, look here's Adam kissing his girlfriend now in Colorado and in Milwaukee. Look at you, Playboy. I like it. Keep it going. Do it in every state. I'm watching. It's all good.
I'm making my rounds.
Making your rounds. Make sure you follow Adam on Twitter at AdamRSTROZ. Follow the network at Detroit Podcast. Make sure you follow Adam Strozinski on Instagram. You might find more TMI than we've talked about here.
There's a lot of TMI that goes down.
Another great broadcast, cuz it comes to a close. Thanks everybody for subscribing. Anywhere you listen to your favorite podcast, just type in Detroit Sports Podcast. And one final note. The godfather of sports radio, the king of the rebuild city, Mike Stone, who's been in sports radio forever, had a great interview in one of the great media websites from Jason Barrett, the sports radio program director. His last line was, you know what? I'm noticing that guys like Dan Le Batard, podcasters, they can say whatever they want. He's like, I want in when I get close to the end. I just want to have that freedom to say whatever the hell I want. And it's great to see that, because as small as that is, I highlighted it for a reason on our Twitter page. What that means is the podcast medium is so powerful in the ability that you and I can just free flow our conversation. I'm sitting here watching golf with no clothes on and having a conversation with you. And yes, and we can say whatever we want. Nobody's watching. Nobody cares. And for damn near 2,000 broadcasts, we've been having the freedom. And now in 2021, guys like Dan Le Batard and Joe Rogan and Jamel Hill are signing up with big networks because of the freedom of podcasting. And I just absolutely love it. And if you're not podcasting, you absolutely need to. Best medium to broadcast, to have a good time. I enjoyed my conversation with you, cuz I can't wait to do it again next week.
Does Stoney need a network to podcast on? I know one.
You know one?
Yeah, I know one. I'm the CFO of one.